Hello and welcome to another episode of Purple Tories. Today I'm very lucky to have a very special guest, and that is David Kurten of the newly founded Heritage Party. Hello, David.
Hello, good to be here.
So I thought I'd throw you a curveball straight away, actually, and ask you a question straight from one of the people in our Facebook group, and that's from a guy called Edward Howard,
Right.
And he has asked, why are you starting your own political party when that could possibly split the populist right-wing vote? Wouldn't joining an established organisation like Nigel Farage's Brexit Party or Robin Tilbrook's The English Democrats be a more sensible move?
Well, I can answer that. And, I stayed in UKIP up until the beginning of this year. And then in January, it was kind of obvious they weren't really interested in fighting elections, more interested in fighting each other, which is very, very sad after I stayed in for so long. So I think that's, very, very sadly on its way to the end now. But, looking at the Conservatives who were there in Parliament, I call them the fake Conservatives. And, I was moderately happy when Boris got in December. I mean, I wasn't totally happy because I think that every time there's an election, they promise all kinds of things, but then they don't deliver because they're not really conservative. They just sound conservative before an election in order to try to get everyone to vote for them. And then they do a bait and switch. But as I said, UKIP is on its way to the end. The Brexit Party is deactivated, and it may come back for a short amount of time around the 31st of December. But there's no elections then, so I don't think there will be any kind of political pressure they can put on in terms of getting anything for elections. I think we need a new real Conservative Party, something that they should be but aren't, which is why I started the Heritage Party, and I've been working on it for a long time. Actually, I mean, I only announced it last week. I just thought that was the time to do it because of how things were going, but I've been working on it since the beginning of June. Put in an application to the Electoral Commission, got refused actually, and now I've resubmitted it, and that should be up on their site later this week. But you can see the manifesto. I've been thinking about this for a long time, and it's all of the things that I've been saying over the years. My thought has crystallized politically. So you've got there the different principles and values which I think are really socially conservative. Defending our heritage, low immigration, financial responsibility, traditional family values, looking after our environment and our green belt, preserving that, and a culture of life, making sure we value life, and a free and fair markets, I say, because there's unbridled capitalism, I don't think is a good thing. Capitalism is a good thing. Free markets are a good thing, but they, of course, need to be tempered so that they're fair as well. So all of those principles, I think, are conservative principles, socially conservative principles, rather than sort of neoliberal and socially liberal principles, which is what the fake conservatives seem to be today. So, I don't think there's anyone, any other party that is quite the same in all the nuances that I've put in the manifesto as what I'm trying to do. There's a lot of parties that we might agree on 60, 70, 80% of stuff, but this is specifically socially conservative parties, not a libertarian party. Although, of course, free speech and liberty is part of that, because that's part of our culture and our heritage, and it's very, very important. But it's really a socially conservative is what we're trying to be.
Yeah. And what I'm finding with these new parties which are springing about in recent years is, on the right side of politics, they either tend to be sort of very libertarian or quite extreme right, where they start making an issue of things like race and DNA and things like that, which to me is not the direction you want to go. Obviously, I imagine you totally agree with that.
No, I mean, you get some people in some parties who would say that I'm not British because I don't have white skin, you know, and you know, I mean, really, I mean, so obviously I wouldn't be allowed to join one of those parties, or even if I could, I'm not sure that I'd be too welcome. So we certainly don't want to go down that route. I mean, I know there are specifically ethno-nationalist parties, you know, and that's their sort of USP, but that's certainly not where we're going. And then, as I say, we're not libertarian. We do agree with liberty, and we'd share some principles. But you know, I think that the two issues which I think we might differ with some libertarians on are the traditional family values. Now, I specifically said at the top of that section, you know, we believe marriage is a man and a woman. And it's for the purposes of having children and bringing up your own children, and that gives, you know, children better outcomes in general on every measure. And you know, that's the thing that, you know, I've had a lot of support for that from people who don't have anywhere else to go if that's what they believe. But I've had some people saying, oh no, drop that. But you know, that's the thing that to make a stand on, that's specifically socially conservative. And also that we're pro-life, you know, so I'm specifically going to be pro-life. You know, there's over 200,000 abortions in the UK every year. That's going up. I mean, that's a horrific thing, I think. I mean, I do believe in the rights of the unborn child. I don't like this and where it's going, and so we specifically would want to do everything we can to reduce the number of abortions in the UK and save the lives of unborn children. And you know, some people are going to disagree with that, you know, who may be libertarian, but I think those are probably the two issues that there would be most disagreement with libertarians. But then we would agree on most other things. So you know, I think we've still got a lot to offer. But as I say, that's those are the principles that I've set out, and you know, the team around me is in agreement. So that's what we're about.
It's sort of almost aligned with the sort of Republican type conservatism in America, it sounds like, almost. Would you agree?
Yeah, in many ways it is, and I think, you know, Donald Trump has really taken on that as paleo conservatism in the USA much more than you have with the traditional, you know, as I say, fake conservative party in this country who wouldn't touch those issues. And you know, I mean, there's something that we may agree on a little bit more, is the whole transgender issue. And you know, I mean, people could do what they want. You know, you can identify as what you like, but I'm not going to identify a man as a woman or a woman as a man. You know, that's my choice as well, and I don't think anyone should have to do that. And you know, being forced to use pronouns, for example, when it's obvious that you know, there's a big bloke standing in front of you and he's a he, and so on. So I think on that, even on that issue, you get a lot of fake conservatives, or you know, they come up to me and say, "Oh, we agree with you," but are scared of saying anything themselves publicly. They wouldn't want to touch it because they're scared of being called a name. You know, they're scared of being called transphobic, or you know, in other things, you know, homophobic or Islamophobic or xenophobic or bigoted. You know, these are all these kind of slurs that you get thrown at you from the left or the far left. And a lot of people in the Conservative Party just, you know, would agree with that. And some of them wouldn't agree with that. They'd agree with me, but they wouldn't say anything about it. They'd just keep their mouths shut and let the progressive cultural Marxist agenda go on and on, and won't stand up to it. But they'll come to me privately and say, "Oh, we really agree with you, but I can't say that myself." You know, so now there is a party for people who, you know, want someone to actually stand up to political correctness and the whole cultural Marxist agenda. I mean, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah. And I was reading through your manifesto, and I was pleased to see you're not shy to tackle the issue of immigration. You go into it in quite depth, and you talk about things like the Marrakesh Agreement, the UN Global Migration Compact. So you're really quite adept on this subject, and because it's very easy to say we want to lower immigration, but I don't remember Nigel Farage particularly going on about these particular things. So how do you see immigration enveloping with your manifesto and your policies?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, immigration has been way too high for far too long. I mean, it's been out of control. I mean, even if you look at the legal immigration, has been very, very high. It's net 300,000 approximately a year, and on top of that, you've got the illegal immigration, because nobody knows exactly how many people are coming across.
No.
On dinghies or on the back of lorries or on early morning flights, from Albania and so on. So no one really has a clue, and this has been going on for over 20 years, and it's been worse under Cameron and May and now Johnson than it was under Blair and Brown. So, Johnson is not going to stop this. I mean, he wants an amnesty for people who have been in the country for over 15 years. But, I mean, how do you know who's been in the country for over 15 years? Because everyone's just going to say, oh, that's me. And then they'll get an amnesty, and doing absolutely nothing to stop what's going on at the moment. So, there are these global pacts and declarations that we've signed up to. I mean, the Barcelona Declaration was a long time ago. That was 1995, but was enacted more recently. And then 2019, the Marrakesh Declaration, and the UN Global Migration Compact, which seeks to regularize irregular immigration. So, it's on the way to really taking down all the borders and boundaries, and that's what we've signed up to under Theresa May. We've got to come out of those things, but also the other thing at the moment is we've got to come out of the Dublin III regulations, which is the EU's immigration asylum system, which means that if someone comes illegally from France, we can't send them back unless France wants to take them back, which they don't. And they're sort of helping people to actually come across to the UK. I mean, that will hopefully change on the 31st of December. But, I wouldn't be surprised if they find some other reason why they can't do anything about it. But, they could just repudiate it if they wanted to. And this is what we should do. And, but a year ago, I was saying with some other people that the withdrawal agreement that Johnson signed, it really was no good. And this is one of the things that would happen, because we'd still be tied into all the EU's regulations for 11 months. And that's what we are. And so, we're in this situation now. But it's got to change. And I don't think the fake Conservatives have really got any desire to change it, because many of their donors are property developers. They make huge amounts of money from getting old buildings and then knocking them down and building tower blocks, which they can house people in. And the more people that are coming into the country, the more pressure there is on the housing market, the more there's a need for them to build new properties, and whether it's on the green belt, in the countryside, in our city centres, and so on. So they don't care. I mean, it benefits many Tory donors to have mass immigration, and it also benefits many Tory lovies to have mass immigration, because they get cheap au pairs and they get cheap labour, and it also benefits Labour because they get voters as well in their areas. So you become the ones that don't have skills, and then get just go to towns like Burnley, Bradford, Oldham, wherever. It's spreading all over the country now, and Labour gets votes from people who are dependent on welfare, and they pretend that they care and care about their rights and their welfare, but actually they're just getting votes from that. So we need something that's out of the two-party system, and we're never going to change this. As long as Labour and the Tories, they're just taking it in turns to run the country, and they take it ever more down the wrong direction. So we need something new, and we need something that is going to last. It isn't going to come along and say we're going to change everything, we're here forever, and then doesn't stay the course. And we're a party that's got a full manifesto, full principles, full conservatism, and I want to stay the course. So that's what we're about.
Yeah, solid foundations.
Yeah, very small foundations. You know, I mean, it's completely grassroots at the moment. I must admit, I don't have any huge donors, but people have been very generous and very kind. You know, since we've launched, and you know, had quite a few people donating to the party. Lots of people signing up to our newsletter. So that's great, and you know, we'll build a grassroots movement across the country, and change politics, I hope, properly this time.
Yeah. Well, I have arguments in Tory circles quite a lot, and this is with grassroots Tories. My favourite argument is the fact that if you look at the graph of immigration of the past 40 years, and if you look at the price of houses, and that's adjusted for inflation, they're almost exactly the same. And for a lot of people, when I mention that, they say, "Oh no, that's far too simple. You're being childish." You know. What? You used to be a chemistry teacher, right?
Yeah, I did. Yes.
Am I being very unscientific to notice a very strong correlation there?
No, not at all. I think that's. I mean, it's just staring you in the face, isn't it? But people don't want to recognize that, because then you've got to come to a conclusion which is political, and is politically incorrect. And this is the problem with a lot of academia at the moment. The evidence for something is there, but they don't want to accept the evidence because it doesn't fit their narratives, and science and you know, modeling, whatever, and in data is looked at in so it's completely the wrong way around these days. I mean, as a scientist, you know, with the scientific method, which goes back to René Descartes, of course, you learn, you make observations and then you come to conclusions. But what seems to happen today is people decide what conclusion they want to come to, and then they frantically look around for data to fit the conclusion. And if the data doesn't fit the conclusion, well, okay, we're not going to talk about that. You know, so, but you're just talking about something that's very obvious. You know, it's simple supply and demand. The population's gone up in the UK by 10 million in the last 20 years, which is the most rapid rise in history. In terms of numbers.
In the last how many years?
10 in the last 20 years. I mean, in 2000, the population was just under. It was 59 point something million. It was 59.5 million, something like that. 60 million roughly.
Yeah.
I mean, at the beginning of the 20th century, the UK's population was about 40 million. So it went up by 10 million in 50 years, and 10 million in 50 years, up to 60 million. Now it's gone from 60 to 70 million, the next 10 million in just 20 years. So, you know, it's accelerating. The population growth in the country is accelerating. And that's all, or almost all, due to immigration. No question. And so, of course, that's putting massive pressure on the housing market, because we simply haven't built the homes for 10 million extra people. So you get people living 10, 20 people in a house, you know, 3-bedroom house in Dagenham and so on. You get tower blocks all over the cities which are built for 300 people, got 400, 500, 600 people living in them. And, you know, there's overcrowding all over the place, because there just simply hasn't been the homes. But yeah, that then of course raises the prices, you know, because supply and demand. It's very simple economics 101, really, isn't it?
Well, I'm glad I've got you to give me the official citation on that. So
yeah, sure, from the teacher. I wasn't an economics teacher, so someone might come back away with that. But you know.
Okay, so sorry to get too much into party political stuff, but I think it is important, because I think this is a question that a lot of people are going to ask themselves. You must have heard of Lawrence Fox's Reclaim Party, which he's just announced recently. Do you have any thoughts on that? And obviously he has quite a big draw on social media, so that's immediately going to give, and apparently £5 million in support. So first of all, what separates you from his party from your party, and why would you think it's a good idea to steer away from his party? Or if maybe you like his party, maybe you think his party is good as well.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, I decided to announce the Heritage Party last week, and we did it early on Friday. And then I had no idea that Laurence Fox was going to announce that he was starting a new party the next day. It was very late on Saturday for the Sunday morning papers. You know, it sounds good. To be honest, I agree with what he's about. I mean, he's about fighting woke culture. You know, there's all the stuff that's happened over the summer with Black Lives Matter, and there's Sadiq Khan's diversity commission where he wants to rename public places for diversity and all this kind of thing, and defunding the BBC because the BBC's been absolutely appalling. I mean, I call it the Britain bashing commies. That's basically what the BBC are. I mean, they're really loathsome towards, you know, Britain and anyone with traditional conservative values. I mean, that's what the BBC is. So, you know, everything that Laurence Fox has said, I would agree with, you know, but we represent that too. I mean, that's what the very first section in the manifesto we've got is defending our heritage. But then it's also standing up for liberty and free speech and a whole raft of other principles and values as well. So I think, you know, if you're looking at what we stand for, I think, you know, the Heritage Party is a much broader spectrum of politics. It's a much more wider agenda, which covers the whole spectrum of policies and politics. And you know, this is just at the moment we put out there's the principles, but you know, later on we'll put out a manifesto which is specific to policy areas like education and transport, environment, fishing, agriculture, and so on. And I'm not sure that you know, whether the Reclaim, or I don't know, the name might change, is going to do that, or whether it's going to be, you know, a single issue party, because they're describing themselves as the UKIP of culture. And you know, if that is going to be a sort of pressure group political party, I think it's a good thing, you know, and it will do its job. But I think if you want something that's going to last for longer and is going to take on the whole range of things that need to be sorted out in politics, not just culture, but environment and immigration and family breakdown and so on, then, you know, the Heritage Party represents that. But you know, we'll see how it goes, because I didn't know that he was going to do it, and we have a lot of common ground. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, why don't you work together? Why don't you work together?" Well, I haven't had any conversations yet, but you know, I mean, we're all on the same side, so you know, we'll see how things go. That's all I can say. But you know, I think we would have a lot of common ground.
Well, what worries me slightly about the Reclaim Party is I get from what he's saying, he's trying to build sort of a left and right coalition instead of, I guess your movement is probably more of a right wing or conservative movement.
Yeah.
Is more, I guess it's more libertarian, really. And I would love to see you two work together in some capacity, because he's obviously got a lot of pull in the media, but I think you would probably, because you've had a lot of experience, you would give him the knowledge and the experience, which would probably help guide him a little more. Because Laurence Fox is he's just gone on this journey very recently. People like you and many others have been going on it for a long time now, and so we know what this is about. But I don't know if maybe Laurence Fox is too sort of famous at this point to be reached. I don't know if anyone has his phone number.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know him personally, but you know, I've seen him, and you know, I like what he says. I like how he stands up to political correctness. He stands up for freedom of speech, and that's a good thing. We might not agree on everything, but yeah, I mean, that's the thing, as you're saying. He's a liberal. He describes himself on his Twitter feed as a fierce liberal, Well, I'm certainly not a liberal. You know, I'm much more of a social conservative, and so you know, I think, you know, we've got very different flavors about us, but then we would agree on some of the things. And you know, on the really important issue of standing up to cultural Marxism, I don't know if he even uses the term, but he uses the term woke, you know, standing up to wokeness, but on that issue we would agree. So you know, we could, I'm sure we could work together on those issues where we agree. But you know, there might be some things that we don't agree on. You know, like as I said before, the family values thing. You know, looking at trying to stop family breakdown and so on, supporting marriages through the tax system. You know, not going for the sort of gender ideology. You know, we would say, of course, that there are two sexes. There's not gender. Gender is just something that's made up by left field academics. That there's two sexes, male and female, and that's determined by your anatomy and by your chromosomes. I mean, that's our position, and I think we're very strong on that. So I think, you know, there may be some disagreements on those kind of things, because people who do disagree with me on that usually have very, very strong and very emotive, emotionally held positions on that. So you know, I might find there might be some disagreements that are not just rational but emotional, you know, and that's obviously a bigger thing to disagree on when it's on that level. But you know, but I say there's a lot we can agree on. So you know, if we want to smash the two-party system, I mean, if that's what they're really serious about that, and if they're really serious about, you know, making a new party which is not just a pressure group, you know, like the Brexit Party was a single issue pressure group, absolutely brilliant in getting rid of Theresa May and changing the Tory party to put Johnson in, brilliant at that. But you know, I'm not here just to be a pressure group. I'm here to replace the two-party system, and we're from a very, very small beginning. So you know, we've obviously got a mountain to climb and more. But if you don't start, you'll never end. If you don't start the journey, you can be sure that you're never going to get to where you want to go. So I mean, you know, we'll have to see, and I'm sure that over the months coming up, we'll have conversations. But you know, the very first thing in terms of what a party does, when you fight elections, so there's elections in May 2021, and so we'll certainly be standing in the London mayor and assembly elections, and if we get approval from the Electoral Commission, I'll be the mayoral candidate. I mean, at the moment I'm saying I'm standing as an independent, but you know, if the Heritage Party can stand, I'll stand for the Heritage Party to be the mayor of London, and we'll stand in local elections around England, and where we can, not everywhere, but in selected places. You know, we've already got a manifesto together for local elections, and you know, there's issues like housing, looking after the environment. You know, we don't want big housing developments all over the green belt. We don't want these brutal tower blocks everywhere. We want to keep towns and cities like they are, so that they're not ruined. So there's enough towns and cities being ruined already by brutalist buildings. We want to stop that, and many other things. So you know, we've already got positions on London issues, on local issues, and you know, we're quite far down the line in terms of policy development. So obviously, because I've been in politics for a very long time, I wrote UKIP's manifesto in 2019, which was a really good manifesto.
It really was. I still have it in my drawer, actually.
Great. It's a shame that UKIP couldn't carry it. It really is a shame, but it was a good manifesto. So you know, I've done a lot of that over the years, and so you know, we'll keep all those policies, and they're things that will represent and in the different levels of elections that we're standing in. So you know, I don't know if the other, you know, if that's what Laurence Fox's party is going to be thinking about, but we certainly are. So there's something there to get on board for.
So am I right in thinking you've applied to the Electoral Commission to have the name what do they call it? Officiated, I guess.
Yeah, approved, and you get,
yeah.
registered as a political party. Yeah. We first applied on the 1st of June, actually, so it was a long time ago. We got rejected, and then again, we just put in the application again. So it should appear this week on the Electoral Commission site under current applications. So then every time it takes them 4 to 6 or 8 weeks to go to work through your paperwork, because you have to submit lots of paperwork, and if your paperwork isn't perfect, then they refuse you. So it's
so they didn't reject the name as such, it was just a bit of paperwork.
It was technical, yeah. It was technical issues, because you've got to comply with the Representation of the People Act, I think. So, in terms of your constitution and your financial plan. So there's all sort of boring legal stuff, but that's all got to be absolutely perfect. So, they just came back and said, this thing's wrong, that thing's wrong, but just because it doesn't comply with all of the sections of the Act. So yeah, it wasn't anything that was like we were a bad party or bad people. I mean, I don't think you could say the Heritage Party is an offensive name for a party, so that they can refuse you if your name is offensive. But it wasn't because of that. So it was just technical things.
Yeah, that would be quite ballsy to say our heritage is offensive.
Yeah.
So going to party politics once again, I think we have to touch on Nigel Farage, because am I right in thinking you were reasonably close to him in UKIP, or not so much?
Yeah, I was always a big fan of Nigel Farage, absolutely. And I don't see him that much these days, but back in the day, 2015, 2016, 2017, I saw him a lot more. Of course, particularly around the time of the referendum, where we were campaigning, and then in 20, there was the London Assembly elections. So that year was really, UKIP's glory year. 2016, where we fought for the referendum, the very thing that we were going for, for 20 years and so on. And so, I saw Nigel Farage a lot that year, and in the year after, and so on. But he's obviously moved off to start the Brexit party, so I wasn't involved in that so much. I mean, I obviously kept in touch with people there, and went along to some of their rallies just to see, because it was it was a nice event, and nice events, and very positive, very uplifting things. So I see Nigel around every now and again, maybe a couple of times a year. But I'm not in regular contact. But obviously I'm in touch with people who know him, and from the UKIP days, and so on. So we're still in touch there. But as I say, the Brexit party's been deactivated, so it's not a party that has members and so on. It has support.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. Do you know what his game plan is, or if he has a game plan indeed?
I don't know. I don't know, to be honest. I mean, he announces ideas, and some of those things he'll do. Some of them, maybe a few years ago he was just said, "Oh, I think I might stand for London Mayor," but I think he was just joking, but and obviously didn't do that. But I don't know. I don't know. Well, obviously he's doing some really good work at the moment, highlighting the immigration coming across the Channel. And he didn't say much about lockdown for most of March to July, but now he's talking about that. So that's good. It's another voice to add to the people who are actually seeing that this is a bad thing. Lockdown is devastating to the economy and civil liberties and so on. So yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do. But there's this new television station setting up with Andrew Neil, GB News. So I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up on there having a show, to be honest. But I don't know. Honestly, I don't know for sure what he's going to do over the coming months.
Because it does seem possible that he might still have political ambitions post Brexit. It's hard to tell.
He might do. I mean, again, he spoke about possibly starting up a reform party. That he talks about that every now and again. So he might do, but he might not do. So I don't know. I don't know whether he will or not. So I think that's just something we'll just have to take it as it comes. But at the moment, UKIP's on its way out. The Brexit party's deactivated. So I set this up because I thought we need something, and there isn't anything. So if things change, then obviously we'll deal with that change when it happens. But for the moment, my aim is to build and develop the Heritage Party into something that can fight in elections and hopefully at some stage win elections as soon as we can. So other things notwithstanding, that's what we'll do.
So you're in this for the long haul then?
Absolutely, yeah.
So are you slowly sort of building an infrastructure that's going to be able to fight elections in the future then? Is that what you're
that's what we want to do. Yeah, that's what we want to do. I mean, it's a slow process because I don't have millions and millions of pounds of backing. So we got to get some donations in. I'll be talking to some people over the next few months and hopefully get weeks and months and get some donations in. We've got a small team together which is setting things up. We've got a website up which is good with a manifesto on. So we're off to a start, but there's huge amounts to do. I mean, I've never done this before, so starting a political party is like starting a business. There's so much to do, and you've got to just pull everything together, and you need people to volunteer, and then you need to employ people, and so on, and then you build as much as you can. But so at the moment we're very small, and it's but we're building things up slowly and we're developing slowly. So soon, I mean, the next big thing is when we get the approval from the Electoral Commission, then we'll open things up to membership, and then we'll start forming branches around the country, and then when we get branches, then we can get candidates, and then we can get some people together to stand in the elections in May. So obviously I'll be standing for the mayor, but then we'll get a list for the London Assembly, and then we got people in Kent who want to stand in Kent. We've got people in Dorset, Berkshire already, who are going to stand in various wards, or in various parts of those counties and on the county elections. So we've already got people who want to stand, and we'll get organised for that as much as possible.
Great. Okay, I think I'll fire some questions off at you now from the chat.
Okay.
We all know Kurten would rightly defund neo-Marxist courses, etc. But are there parts of the academia he thinks needs more funding?
Yeah, I mean the classic subjects: science, engineering, maths, medicine. Medicine certainly needs more funding. We don't train enough doctors. We don't train enough nurses and midwives in this country, and we rely on bringing doctors in from abroad, which does two things. I mean, it gives us cheaper labor, which means that we don't train our own young people to do those jobs, you know, and we're also stealing talent from other countries, which is not, it's really, I think it's a bad thing, to be honest. I mean, we shouldn't be taking the, I mean, there's this mantra that goes around, oh, we want to attract the best and brightest to come to Britain. I actually don't agree with that fully, because the best and brightest of other countries should stay, for the most part, in their own countries to build up their own nations, particularly if they're developing nations. And you have some nations like Sierra Leone, for example, where I think it's about 97% of all graduates leave the country and go to work in the UK or the USA. I mean, which means that all of the best and brightest, almost, of a country like Sierra Leone go and don't stay to develop their own country and their own economy. So we keep on taking, you know, a country like that, everybody, to attract them here at the cost of not investing in training British young people to be nurses and doctors and engineers and so on.
And electricians.
Probably wrong. And electricians, and the trades, of course. And we need to have parity of esteem between academic subjects and professions and technical and vocational subjects and careers. I mean, we shouldn't have this kind of class thinking about this, that you're academic, you're here, and then there's technical and then vocational. I mean, you got to look at them, they're equal, you know, and they should be equally well esteemed, you know, and that's certainly something that I'd want to do in education. But, you know, obviously we defund all the ridiculous courses like gender studies and decolonization studies and whatever, which don't do anyone any good. And so, yeah, Trump's doing that in America, and you know, I really think we need to do that here too.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, another one I've got here, which I think is a pretty important one, actually. It's from Alan Elderbrown, who used to be in UKIP. Actually, I think he still is. I don't know if you're aware of him.
Yeah.
Oh, you know him, great. And he's asked, well, how many candidates have you got lined up? You sort of addressed that earlier. But what is the infrastructure of the party? Because I'm very mindful of the way that UKIP collapsed and how, you know, the NEC, in my opinion, didn't really do what they're supposed to do as part of the constitution. They're playing very fast and loose with the constitution, I would say. So are you going to have any sort of structure in place to stop abuses of the party?
Yeah, well, our structure is different to UKIP. So, you know, we're going to start off with a board. So we're not going to be electing people to the board. We've just got the board. I'm going to, you know, just work with the team. Basically, the people on the board are going to be people with functions. So the leader, the chairman, the treasurer, and so on. We'll set up branches. You know, so we've got at the beginning. I think when we've got to pick and put in place regional organisers who can then put together teams, county organisers, and then branches can form with members in the areas and so on. So I think we'll avoid two issues that UKIP had were, you know, you had the NEC, and there were people got onto the NEC with their own agendas and weren't interested in the smooth running of the party. And so we'll avoid that by having an appointed board rather than elected NEC to begin with. And that may well change as we go on and we get more people. The other issue that UKIP had is you had regional organisers and regional chairmen, county organisers and county chairmen, and they were, you know, the organisers were coming from the top and the chairmen were coming from the bottom up, but they often clashed with each other. So you got two people trying to do the same thing in different ways, and sometimes it worked, but sometimes it didn't, because you get people who just argue with each other, and if you did, then in a certain region or a county, nothing would happen. So we're going to avoid that at the beginning by appointing the regional organisers and county organisers, but then, as time goes on, I think that will become more democratic and so on. Then it may open the counties up to be elected rather than appointed. But we've got to make a lot of decisions at the beginning to just set things up. So it can't be like 100% democratic at the beginning in terms of appointing people to positions, but that will change, I'm sure, as things go on. But it's really not too far away, elections, so in May, so there's an awful lot to do to get things in place for that, and to find candidates, but we'll do the best we can.
Well, I actually think a board of directors makes sense, and it's a very solid structure. And I think Nigel Farage banged on about this point, particularly with UKIP. I mean, he clashed with the NEC on many occasions, didn't he?
Yeah.
I guess one thing it's early days now, but given the independent branches independence and letting them choose their candidates and things like that, obviously maybe that's something to think about in the future.
Oh, certainly. I mean, at a local level, I think, there's no way that as a board we could go and appoint all the candidates for, Berkshire and Thurrock and Durham and all over the country. That will have to be done by local branches. And so certainly, I mean, that would be, I think, where we sort of retain what UKIP did, but we might be a little bit more like the Brexit Party in terms of the board and the organisers. So it's sort of be a mix of the two, but it's not going to be completely centralised. It is the Brexit Party. Everything was done. All the candidates were chosen by the head office. So it won't be like that. I mean, the branches will have far more autonomy over choosing candidates, particularly for local elections.
Yeah, I guess that I've never thought about that actually. That UKIP was to the opposite direction, and Brexit Party was to the other direction. Brexit Party was way too centralised, and well, I don't want to say UKIP was too democratic, but too sort of spread about. Like too many differing opinions, too many clashes.
It was too nebulous, and for a small party, I mean, it was only a small party of at the most 45,000, but most of the time I was in it was 20 to 30,000, and you've got all the positions you'd have in a much bigger party, and it was just too many people pulling in too many different directions, so it just all got out of control in UKIP, and I'm sure some people that were there got in to make trouble as well, who obviously really didn't have the smooth running, but to make sure that it didn't run smoothly, and we didn't see it coming, but I look back over the time and I think, my goodness, there's people, you did this, and then there's certain people that just messed up so much that you think, come on, this is not normal. So that was another problem that UKIP had as well. So we can avoid that by initially making appointments to the board and the senior positions, but obviously we can't do that, and the branches will have to be much more forming themselves, and much more grassroots. So I think it'll be a good mix.
And talking of UKIP, have you caught the fancy of any former UKIP heavyweights? I know there's someone here who's mentioned Peter Whittle, for instance. He's your London Assembly group partner.
Yeah, we're still together on the London Assembly. I mean, we disbanded the UKIP group, back at the end of 2018, and formed the Brexit Alliance. So we still work together on the London Assembly.
He went viral recently, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Had a really good session with Sadiq Khan about his horrible idea of this diversity committee. Diversity commission. So yeah,
well, he got kicked out of the assembly, didn't he?
Yeah, nearly. I think he should have
Oh.
let them kick him out, because that would actually look really bad for Labour if they had actually kicked him out, but they didn't. They didn't in the end. So, but yeah, it was quite shocking, their reaction and what they wanted to do. It really was.
So have you had any UKIPers that you've known in the past who are going to join you on this venture?
Not so, maybe grassroots people that people wouldn't be aware of. I mean, there's a few people that were county organisers, for example, that I've spoken to, and branch chairman in UKIP, but they wouldn't be well known. But I don't have any big names, in UKIP at the moment. So some people, have said they're that they've said that they like Lawrence Fox's party and what he's doing, which I understand, because he's more well known than me. I have to accept that, but I think I've got the staying power, and
50,000 Twitter followers, so that's not too bad.
That's true. So it's not a problem, but I don't have any big names who have said that they're going to join the Heritage Party at the moment. But I hope that it will do. As time goes on, and we'll see what happens. I was on Talk Radio yesterday. That was really good. Had a good interview there with Mike Graham. So that was a nice interview. Not nice session. So yeah, things are going well. Things are going well, I think.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are sort of holding their cards close to their chest at the moment. They're not quite sure where they're going. So a lot of people jumped on board with Boris, obviously, including me. I do think he's doing a good job with Brexit. But, socially conservative, not so much. And there definitely is a gap in the market, for sure, like you're saying. So I think the next few months, I guess it's the new year when people are really going to start sort of seeing where they're going to go, because that's when Britain is finally, we've agreed our trade agreement with the EU. So people will start looking a bit more away from Brexit, I think, after that point.
Yeah, that's right. And this coronavirus situation is such a distraction from Brexit, and it's also a distraction from the elections for Trump in America. But yeah, it's Brexit's still hugely important, because we haven't got it properly. We got to have it properly at the end of December. So yeah, coming up, I think that's going to be more of an issue. But yeah, like you say, when it's over, then we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what will happen to Boris. We don't know what will happen with the Brexit Party. We don't know what will happen with UKIP or other parties. And so things will change. But we're here as the Heritage Party. So we're not just about Brexit. We're about as I said, national sovereignty is how I put it. Because once we leave the European Union, there's all kinds of other international agreements and bodies that we've signed up to that are just as not quite as detrimental to our sovereignty as the EU, but certainly have an effect. We mentioned earlier that the UN Global Migration Compact and so on. There's the World Health Organization. There's the European Convention on Human Rights, which is good. The original convention is really, really good. I like it. We need to have that. But what we shouldn't have is all the case law from 70 years coming from the judges in Strasbourg after that, that we don't just have to adhere to the convention. We have to adhere to all of the case law, some of which is detrimental to our sovereignty, because, they say, oh, you're not allowed to deport foreign terrorists, for example, or prisoners must have the vote and things like this. So there's a lot of sort of activist case law that comes with that. So we need to look at all of these things and make sure that we take back all our sovereignty from all of these other bodies and all of the sort of agreements and compacts and treaties and things that we've signed and declarations that we've signed, and people just sign them because they think, oh well, if I don't sign it, I'm going to look bad, the media's going to call me something nasty. But I mean, that's no way to be running a country, really, because a lot of those things are quite detrimental to us, and we need to get out of them. Paris Climate Agreement, that's another one. which is going to be, you know, devastating to our energy sector, and so on, you know.
Okay, so heritageparty.org, and you can go on there and sign up to your newsletter, right, to see what's going on with the updates to the party. Have you got any sort of new news coming soon related to the party?
Well, I think, you know, that we'll start putting out some, you know, some policy announcements and so on. We'll say some stuff about the coronavirus, and we'll also be, you know, opening up to for organisers. So I think the next thing we'll do is we'll be asking for you know, people who are interested in being regional organisers and county organisers to get in touch with us, so that we can start putting in infrastructure ready for the elections. So that will be the next thing. So do sign up for the newsletter, because I'll be giving out details of, you know, opportunities to get involved through the newsletters. So please sign up to that. heritageparty.org.
Great. Okay, it's been brilliant speaking to you, and yeah, I'll sign up right now.
Right, fantastic. Another one, marvelous. You're welcome.
Okay.
Well, it's great to meet you. Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't mention, by the way, I actually saw you speak around 2 years ago at the UKIP Youth Conference in Worcester. I don't know if you remember that.
I do remember. Yes.
And you actually, I think you had your pamphlet on cultural Marxism at the time.
yeah, I did.
Yeah.
That was actually good. That was I enjoyed doing that. I spent about 1.5 years actually touring around the country, speaking about cultural Marxism, mainly to UKIP branches, but also to others. So yeah, that was a big part of my life for a long time. But we still talk about it, and it's really good that more people are talking about it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Trump's brought it to the mainstream, which is good.
Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic. Great.
All right, thanks a lot. Thanks
You're
for coming.
welcome. Good to speak to you then. Cheers.
Good to speak to you. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.